Now, the second secret I learned from these people I came to call leave no regrets. Now, by the way, it's not possible to have no regret in your life. And I'll tell you one of the things I discovered. I asked these happiest people, what do you regret? Did you regret in your life? And I want to tell you a couple of interesting things I discovered. The first thing I discovered is that happy people don't beat themselves up. As one man I interviewed said to me, he said, before I answer that question, what do I regret? I want you to know I don't live my life in regret. If you make a mistake, it's only a mistake if you do it over and over again. So what I discovered is happy people don't beat themselves up. When you make a mistake, you have a bad day, you have a bad month, you don't beat yourself up, you just go on. But the other interesting thing that I discovered to me was such a profound thing. You see, I expected people to say they regretted their failures. I expected people to say things, I wrote that book and no one read it. I started that business and it went bankrupt. I wish I hadn't tried. I went for love and that man or woman broke my heart. I wish I hadn't taken a chance. But what I found was the polar opposite. No one regretted their failures. What people regretted were the things they didn't do. They said, I wanted to learn to play a musical instrument, but I never had the time. I wanted to try out for the play, but I was afraid that I'd look bad. This one woman told me, it really broke my heart as an author. She said she had 7 unfinished books. And she said, my greatest regret in my life is I never finished any of those books. And when I asked her, she was 73 years old, I said, why didn't you finish those 7 books? It broke my heart when she said to me, because, when I was a child, my parents always told me, that I wasn't smart. She said, and I figured if I ever finished one of those books, I'd have to show it to other people. And if I showed it to other people, they might have told me, Irene, you can't write. She said, and so I never took the chance to write that book. The biggest regret in my life is I didn't finish one of those books. And by the way, 2 years after my interview, she finished and published her first book. It was such a wonderful, amazing thing. But one of the fascinating things is, by the way, this is not one of the people I interviewed, I have to tell you. Is if there's something you want to do in your life, go for it. You know what Ken Cranbeer, that town barber, told me? He said, when you're a town barber, you go to a lot of funerals because it's like being a priest in a small town. I know everybody because I cut somebody's uncle's hair or their father's hair. He said, and the saddest thing at a funeral, he said, is that, when someone dies, someone will say, well, she always wanted to travel, but, didn't get around to it. He always wanted to be a better father, but, never got around to it. Whatever you want to do in your life, make sure you don't leave it off the table. And, one of the people I interviewed, an 85-year-old woman, told me a great thing. She said, whenever I've had an important decision to make in my life, she said, from when I was very young, I would imagine myself as an old woman sitting on a rocking chair looking back at my life. And she said, I would always ask that old woman, what do you want me to do? And she said that old woman would always say to me, Helen, choose the path that makes the best story. Choose the path of the story you want to be telling when you're an old woman sitting here on the porch. She said, and always that old woman would say to me, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? You might fail. And let me make that real for you. Maybe some of you had your heart broken in a relationship. And, this one woman told me that she had gotten divorced when she was 40 years old. And the biggest regret of her life is that she never really took a chance of loving again. That this man had broken her heart so badly that she never opened up her heart again. And maybe some of you got your heart broken and you've been afraid to open up your heart again. I want to say to you, open up your heart. Maybe some of you are afraid to go for a promotion because maybe you think it's going to look bad if I don't get it. And I want to say to you, take a chance. Put it out there. The worst that can happen is that you might fail. And you know what I can tell you right now? I'm going to give you a great gift. At the end of your life, you will not regret your failures. Because I talked to 250 people near the end of their lives. And not one of them regretted their failures, but every one of them said, if I had it to do over, I would have gone for it. In every realm of my life, I would have given it everything that I had. Make sure you're telling the story that you want to tell.